All right, so in this tutorial, we are going to view and modify our permissions on our universal profile. So if you deployed a universal profile through the extension, it's going to have a couple of controlling accounts on there. So if we check up here and go to the controllers, you'll see that there's a browser extension and a universal receiver delegate. The browser extension is the EOA account that effectively controls this wallet. Um, so EOA, it stands for externally owned account, and that's like the typical account that you see in MetaMask that you interact with for like Ethereum transfers. So there's like a private key and a public key associated with it. It's not a smart contract. Um, so on here we'll see that, and all these buttons are colored, so that means that all these permissions are active. So we'll click out of this, and then you also have a universal receiver delegate, and this sort of lets you communicate with other assets. So, these have two addresses on them, so we can copy that address and we can copy this address. And then on top of that, we have our profile address. So here you can see there's 3 addresses with the extension starting up. So we can also view these in MyLuksoWallet. So if we go to My Universal Profile and Manage Permissions, we'll go down to our universal profile address and we'll check the existing addresses. So here we'll see a list of 4 addresses. And the reason is that the owner address is it's not shown in the extension. So the owner is the key manager. So it's the address that manages the controllers. And so I don't think there's a way to see that on here. I might be missing it, but I'm not sure if there's a way to see it on there. But that's the owner of your universal profile. And then we see this first one here. This address should match the browser extension address. So yeah, these two match. And you'll see that all of the colored ones are sort of checked. So so this matches up. And then if we go to the second one, that's your receiver delegate into the set data that matches. And then there's a third address here that has permissions. I'm not entirely sure what this is, but it seemed to be deployed with the with your universal profile. So what we can do, I guess, because we're not sure what this is, let's just take away all the permissions on here. So we can just unclick all of these, and hopefully this doesn't break anything, but we'll submit changes and we'll hit OK. And then we will long click to confirm. So for developers out there, like another thing you can do is check so Luxo has this pretty cool tool where you can view what, okay, so our permissions have just been modified. So we'll copy this address. So this is the address that we weren't sure about, where you can like enter an address and see what it's about. So if the address supports like ERC 725 or yeah, if it supports ERC 725, it'll light up and you'll get like a flurry of options. So if we paste our universal profile address in here, you can see here that there's a couple of address permissions, and these were the 3 addresses that we were looking at. So there's 3 on here, and we can see that that other one was not an ERC 725 account. But now we'll just refresh the page here just in case. Connect the profile again. So I think in a future implementation, you won't have to refresh the page so much. Now we'll refresh it and we'll select the universal profile again. And then looking at that last account, there's no permissions anymore. Also in a future implementation, there may be an option to just remove this entirely if you uncheck all the permissions. I think we'll have to think through whether to do that or not. But that's pending. So okay, so we've done that, and now we'll go over to new addresses. And let's say we want to add permissions to a new account. So first thing is, let's test if we can, if there's a conflict with an existing account, like is that gonna give me an error? So we know the URD delegate is already our permission account. So let's put that in here. And it tells me that this address already has permission. So I cannot add, if I want to submit, not a valid submission. So let's just put in like a random number here. Okay, this is also not valid. This is not a valid address. So let's find a valid address, and I am going to use I'm just going to use, I guess, the MyLuksoWallet address, account address. I just put it in here. So it tells me this address is valid, and then I can, set a couple permissions. So you could go on the Luxo website to read about what each of these permissions does. For now, we'll do transfer value, call, maybe set data, and then we'll submit these changes and hit OK. And then we'll have to confirm the transaction. And then once this is done, this new account should also show up in your extension. So we'll look in the extension now, and you can see that this controller is in here now with the set data property and the transfer value. So I don't think call is on here, but yeah, so we have permissions for these three now.